The studio was silent. You could almost hear the air itself waiting. The cameras were rolling, lights dimmed, and in the center of it all sat Yaman, hands trembling slightly as he tried to find the right words. For years, he had carried an image, the strong, unshakable actor, the one who always stood tall no matter what storm came his way. But that night, the mask finally fell. He looked down, trying to compose himself, but when he lifted his eyes again, they were glassy. You could see the battle behind them, the fight between holding everything inside and letting it all out. "Nobody believes me anymore," he said quietly, his voice breaking halfway through the sentence. "No matter what I say, no matter how honest I am, they always think I'm acting." The audience didn't know what to do. Some sat frozen, others whispered softly. They weren't watching the polished actor they thought they knew. They were watching a man, raw and wounded, stripped of all defenses. It all started months before that night, whispers, rumors, endless gossip about him and Demet Özdemir. Some claimed they still loved each other. Others said they hated each other. But the truth, as always, was far more complicated. Behind the cameras, there was a story no one wanted to tell, one of loyalty, heartbreak, and a love that refused to die even when everything around it tried to. Back when they met on set, the chemistry was instant. Everyone felt it. The crew, the fans, even the directors. It wasn't just acting, it was something real. And for a while, that connection was pure magic. They became inseparable. Long filming hours turned into late-night conversations, laughter, and quiet looks that said more than words ever could. But fame has a way of poisoning what is real. When their relationship was revealed, it stopped being theirs. Suddenly, their love belonged to everyone, every headline, every tweet, every stranger with an opinion. And that's when things began to crumble. "We stopped being two people," Ken whispered during that interview. "We became a story for everyone else." And once that happened, the truth didn't matter anymore. He paused, his lips trembling, his breathing uneven. For a moment, it looked like he wanted to get up and leave, but he stayed. Because this time, he wanted the world to hear him. For months, he had been painted as the villain, proud, arrogant, distant. The man who had everything and still managed to lose it all. But what no one saw was the cost. The sleepless nights. The regret. The way he would rewatch old clips of them together, not as an actor, but as a man missing a piece of himself. He pressed his fingers together and took another breath. "They say time heals everything," he said softly. "But some wounds don't close, they just teach you how to live with the pain." The host tried to change the subject, but Ken lifted his hand gently, signaling that he wanted to continue. He wasn't done. "Demet," he whispered, almost to himself. "She was the only one who ever understood me. Even when I was wrong, even when the world was against me, she saw the truth in me." The way he said her name, it wasn't for the cameras. It was for himself. For the part of him that still hadn't let go. And that's when it happened. A single tear slipped down his cheek. Then another. Then more. He didn't hide them. He didn't wipe them away. He just sat there, silent, broken, but finally honest. The host leaned forward, his voice barely audible. "Ken, do you still love her?" Ken smiled weakly, his voice trembling but steady enough to break a million hearts. Love doesn't vanish just because people stop believing in it. Sometimes it just learns to survive quietly. The studio fell silent again. Cameras zoomed in. The world was witnessing something rare, truth. Pure, painful, beautiful truth. As the lights dimmed, one thing became clear: this wasn't a performance. It was a confession. The man who had once been silent was finally telling his story, and this time, he wasn't afraid to cry. When the interview aired, the clip of Ken wiping his tears went viral within hours. Fans flooded the internet, some in shock, others in pain. "We've never seen him like this," they wrote. "This isn't acting." But for Ken, it wasn't about the world finally believing him. It was about releasing years of weight that had been crushing him in silence. Because behind that single tear was a love story the world thought it knew, but never truly did. After a Kenzie cuss, when the cameras stopped rolling and fame started to grow like wildfire, the distance between Can and Demet began to take shape. Not because they stopped caring, but because the world wouldn't let them be real. Every smile they shared became proof of a secret romance. Every disagreement became a breakup. They were never allowed to be just two people. "We were happy," Can said quietly in another part of the interview. "But happiness doesn't sell. Pain does. So they started selling our pain, even when there wasn't any." At first, they laughed it off. They would read the gossip headlines to each other and roll their eyes, finding comfort in their little bubble of truth. But over time, that bubble began to shrink. The pressure grew. Fans demanded answers, producers wanted publicity, journalists wanted drama. Then came the rumors that Demet was seeing someone else, that Can had moved on, that they couldn't even stand to be in the same room. Lies upon lies, each one cutting deeper than the last. Demet, always graceful, kept her silence. She didn't respond, didn't fight back, didn't defend herself. But Can knew what that silence cost her. He saw it in her eyes when they crossed paths during events, that quiet sadness, that unspoken "I'm tired too." She never deserved what they said about her, Can said on the show, his eyes lowering. They called her names, they made her cry. And all because she chose to love me once. There was a pause. The audience could feel his words sinking deep, like the echo of something sacred and broken at the same time. What the world never saw were the nights he'd still check her social media, just to see if she looked happy. Or how she'd still send a small birthday message every year, not as a lover, not as a friend, but as someone who still cared quietly. They had stopped talking publicly, but privately, they never stopped protecting each other. When Can moved to Italy, many thought he was running away. But in truth, he was just trying to breathe again, to escape the noise. And Demet, though she stayed in Turkey, often defended him indirectly. During one interview, when a journalist tried to provoke her, she simply said, "Can is a good person. I will always wish him peace." It was a sentence that meant more than anyone realized. Because beneath it was years of history, nights spent laughing until dawn, arguments that ended in silence, tears neither of them admitted to anyone else. Can's voice cracked again as he continued. "Do you know what hurts the most? When someone says, he doesn't care about her anymore. They have no idea. They didn't see how much we fought, not with each other, but for each other." He looked up then, his eyes glistening under the harsh studio lights. "We fought for what was real in a world that only wanted fiction." The host swallowed hard, clearly moved. "And do you think you lost that fight?" Kim paused for a long moment before answering. "You can't lose something that never really ended," he whispered. The crowd gasped. That single line, "never really ended," exploded across the internet. Within hours, it was trending in multiple countries. People began analyzing every old photo, every interview, every subtle glance between them. Because maybe, just maybe, their story wasn't over. "Nobody believes me," Ken had said earlier. But now, after hearing his truth, the world began to. It wasn't about fame anymore. It wasn't about gossip. It was about two people who once found something extraordinary, and were brave enough to admit that even after everything, a part of it still lived inside them. As the show ended, Ken stood up, wiped his eyes, and gave a soft smile that said more than any words could. For the first time, the world didn't see the actor. They saw the man who loved, lost, and still carried that love with quiet dignity. And somewhere, far away from the cameras, Demet Özdemir was watching too. Her eyes shining, her heart heavy, whispering the same truth to herself that Ken had finally spoken aloud. It never really ended. The next morning, the world was on fire. Every major outlet, from Istanbul to Rome, from Madrid to Los Angeles, had one name trending, Yaman. The image of him with tears running down his cheeks flooded social media. It wasn't just a clip anymore, it had become a symbol. The man who had been accused of arrogance, pride, and distance had shown something nobody expected: vulnerability. He cried for her, one headline said. A love story the world destroyed, wrote another. Demet, are you watching this? Asked millions of fans. They were. She was. Demet Özdemir had been silent for months, focusing on her projects, traveling, smiling through interviews where every word was analyzed under a microscope. But when that interview aired, she couldn't look away. At first, she thought she could watch it like everyone else, detached, strong, professional. But when she saw him lower his head, when she heard him whisper, "Nobody believes me anymore," something inside her cracked open. He still carries it, she whispered to herself. After all this time, he still carries it. Her friends tried to distract her, to change the topic, but Demet just sat there in silence, her phone glowing in her hand as the clip replayed. The tears she had held back for so long began to fall. Because no matter how much time had passed, no matter how many rumors or new headlines had filled the years, she knew exactly what that look meant. That was her Can. The man she had known, not the one the press talked about, not the one people judged, but the man who used to laugh until his stomach hurt, the man who once told her, "No matter what happens, I'll always protect your name." He had kept that promise. Even when they drifted apart, even when the world pushed them into silence, he had never spoken ill of her. Not once. Now, watching him cry on national television, Demet finally understood the depth of his silence. He hadn't been cold, he had been protecting something sacred. She opened Instagram. Her followers were already tagging her, thousands of messages flooding in. "Say something," they wrote. "He still loves you. Please, just answer him." But Demet didn't post a statement. Instead, she went to her gallery, scrolled up to an old photo, one taken years ago on set, both of them laughing, unaware of how fragile that happiness would become, and she stared at it for a long time. Then she whispered softly, "You never needed to explain yourself, Can. I always believed you." She didn't share that with anyone. She didn't need to. Some things are too real to post. Meanwhile, Can stayed quiet after the interview. No press follow-ups, no clarifications. His phone buzzed endlessly, messages from old friends, journalists, even strangers. But the one message he kept looking for never came. Not yet. Instead, he did what he always did, he went for a drive through Rome at night. The streets were nearly empty, the city glowing under soft yellow lights. He parked near the river, stepped out, and looked at the reflection of the city on the water. It had been a long time since he'd cried. But that night, he didn't regret it. Because for the first time, the tears didn't feel like weakness, they felt like truth. He looked at the sky, breathing in the cold air. "They wanted to break me," he said quietly. "But maybe, this is how I heal." That same night, Demet posted a story on her Instagram. It wasn't a photo of herself, nor a quote. It was just a simple black background with 3 words in white text: "Some things never end." No one needed to ask what it meant. Everyone knew. Within minutes, fans began connecting the dots. She saw it. She answered him. "It's not over." The internet exploded again. Hashtags trended, old photos resurfaced, edits, compilations, fan theories, all of it flooded back like a wave of nostalgia and hope. But for Can, that single sentence was enough. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. He just smiled softly, knowing that across continents, the one person who mattered had finally heard him. "Nobody believes me," he had said. "I always believed you," she had silently answered. It was the closure they never got, and the connection that never died. As dawn broke over Rome, Can stood on his balcony, the sun painting the city in gold. For once, there was no noise, no headlines, no questions. Just peace. He whispered into the morning air, his voice steady but full of feeling, "They can say whatever they want. But in the end, she knows. And that's enough." The camera may have captured his tears, but it never could capture that final truth, the quiet bond between two souls who had lived a love too real for the world to understand. And as the day began, both of them, miles apart yet closer than ever, carried the same thought in their hearts: it never really ended. Days turned into weeks, yet the echo of that night refused to fade. Everywhere he went, people looked at him differently now. Not as the untouchable actor, not as the man with the perfect smile, but as the human who finally let the world see his heart. The image of Yaman wiping his tears had become more than a viral moment. It had become a statement: even the strongest break when love and truth collide. But behind the sudden fame of his honesty, something deeper was happening. The noise that once drowned his peace began to quiet. The world, for once, had stopped judging and started listening. The same people who had attacked him before were now defending him, reminding others that he's just human. And can, instead of celebrating, instead of using it for attention, disappeared again. No interviews, no red carpets. Just quiet. He spent his mornings walking through Trastevere, stopping by a small cafe where the owner no longer treated him like a celebrity but like an old friend. Sometimes he'd sit there for hours, writing in a small notebook. Thoughts, feelings, moments that never made it to the screen. When asked what he was writing, he simply smiled and said, "Peace." At night, he'd go to the same bridge by the Tiber River where he once went after the interview. The air there was always cool, always calm. He liked to listen to the sound of the water. It reminded him that life, like the river, never really stops, it just keeps flowing, finding its way around every obstacle. And even though he didn't say it aloud, he still thought of her. Not with sadness anymore, but with gratitude. For what they had, for what they learned, and for what they survived. One evening, as he was watching the sunset melt into the river, his phone buzzed. A message. No name appeared, just 3 dots, and then a single sentence: "I saw the river today too." He stared at it for a long time, his heart beating slower, steadier. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. Some messages don't need words, they just remind you that somewhere out there, someone is breathing the same silence as you. Later that week, an Italian magazine published an article titled, "Yaman, the man who found strength in tears." It wasn't gossip, it wasn't about fame. It was about a man who chose truth over image, love over pride, and silence over noise. He didn't win an argument, the journalist wrote. He won himself. "When can read it," he smiled faintly. That line. He won himself, felt like the perfect ending to a story that had no villains, no heroes, just 2 people who once loved in a world too loud to let them. He closed the magazine and walked out to his balcony, the city glowing under the evening sun. He thought of the last words he had said on television: "Nobody believes me." And now, he realized it never mattered who believed him. Because the only person who truly understood didn't need convincing. He took a deep breath and whispered softly into the fading light, "I don't need the world to understand. I just needed her to remember." The wind carried his words into the distance, over rooftops, through alleyways, across the sleeping river, as if Rome itself was listening. That night, he opened his notebook one last time. On a clean page, he wrote just 2 lines: "They attacked me for being real. But in the end, my truth was stronger than their noise." He closed it gently, looked out over the horizon, and smiled, the kind of smile that comes when you finally stop running. Somewhere across the sea, Demet sat by her own window, reading messages, ignoring the noise, and smiling too. Maybe she felt it, that quiet peace that only 2 people who once shared everything can still understand. Neither of them needed to speak anymore. Their silence had said enough. And for the first time in years, the world didn't see drama, heartbreak, or mystery. It saw what had been there all along: 2 souls who had loved deeply, lost quietly, and healed beautifully. The story was over. But the feeling would last forever. "Nobody believes me," he once said. "We believe you now," the world finally answered. And just like that, with tears, truth, and a final whisper to the night, Yaman had the last word.